Hello and welcome back to another Team Juno video. In today's video, I myself, Tamura, am going to be VOD reviewing Title, who has come second at Worlds, won Worlds, and has recently just won MSI as well. So in today's video, we're going to be VOD reviewing his winning game in the recent MSI tournament. Okay, so Title is currently on 20 points, which means that he's in checkmate. So this game, he's basically just going to be playing for first. As long as he goes first, then he'll win the whole thing. But there's probably other players in here as well who are in checkmate. So probably need to be looking to deny them, because if he doesn't go first this game, he wants to make sure that anyone who's not in checkmate format, is going first. So you can see here he's offered the Bruiser Olaf. I think this is a really strong opener if you can play around superfans as well. Doesn't necessarily have the superfans, so unless he gets Olaf items here, he's probably not going to want to pick it up. I mean, he has the Sunfire Slam, so potentially a decent opener, but wants to hold out for something better just because if he takes that there and he doesn't get like a natural Titans or natural superfans, then he's usually just going to go win-loss, win-loss, so it's not really amazing pickup. Similar option here with the Punk, basically the same problem with the Olaf, not guaranteed an insane opener, so he's just going to hold out for something better. Now looking at these augments, unfortunately he did pass up on the Olaf chosen, otherwise the pentakill might have been okay. Gifts of the Fallen, it's 2-1's really bad because you don't have that many units, so probably just going to reroll 1 and 2 here. So you get Sleight of Hand. Sleight of Hand's a great win streaking augment. TG as an item is just really good this set, and then also the fact that you get the bonus attack speed, so wouldn't be surprised if he just wants to roll 2 and 3 now, just because Sleight of Hand's so good. And then his other options aren't amazing. I mean, he's scouting around, but I don't think it really changes his decision here. Maybe he's considering Trade Sector because he wants to play a certain reroll comp, but pretty sure he's always taking Sleight of Hand here. Then he's just considering here whether or not he wants to level. Places the TG down, sees that he gets Titans, and probably recognizes that his spot is good enough that he can potentially play for a streak. He definitely has to natural a good chosen soon though. But as a player, I think Title's just really good at playing for the safe top 4, so I don't think he really likes to go for the loss unless he absolutely has to, and this spot is definitely no exception, so he can definitely just play for a streak. Holding onto those superfan units is crucial, because if he gets a good chosen, he's going to want it. Unfortunately, he finds the Lilia after already having Lilia 2, so no real reason to pick this up. Makes the Garen 2, which is a bit of a gamble, honestly, because unless he finds a chosen that synergizes well with Garen, the Garen's just going to be -1 gold, but I think he just wants to play for streak, because this is going to be a really expensive investment into this Garen 2, because it may only seem like 1 gold, because if you sell the Garen, you're -1 gold, but because he buys this Garen, there's a high chance that he won't be able to make 10 on 2-3. I think it's almost impossible that he makes 10 on 2-3, so he's actually -2 gold just for this Garen. And if he doesn't make 10 gold, then that accumulates into even more gold. And you can see here, he gets the Twitch 2. So this Twitch 2 and Garen 2 are going to cost him a lot of money. So he best be hoping that he's streaking. Because if he doesn't 5-streak this game, then he's going to be in a really bad spot. Now, I thought this was interesting when I watched it the first time, but he actually takes out the Punk there to get an Nami. I'm not sure if he recognizes that he needed the Nami bubble to win one of the matchups, because Twitch doesn't have enough single target DPS to kill some of those infinite, healing units, such as the Olaf. So if he had anything that just had way too much healing in his matchup, I can see the Nami as more of an insurance policy, because the Nami stuns towards the end of the fight, which will enable the Twitch to kill it. So really high level play if that's what he was going for. Otherwise, taking out the Punk there is definitely a little bit risky, but unless he needs the Nami, he'll probably put it, he'll probably put the Pantheon back in. You can see here, he finally finds his chosen. It's a 2-cost Katarina, and, he has the 3 countries, so definitely going to be quite strong. But like I mentioned before, he bought the Garen and invested in it, but now it's looking to be quite costly because his chosen doesn't synergize with Garen at all, so it's guaranteed him the 3 streak. However, it's going to cost him quite a lot of gold. We said we didn't even make money on 2-3, let alone 2-3, we didn't even make money on 2-5. So this Garen's cost him well over 3 gold, and that's just going to spiral into more. But hey, if he gets the 5 streak, then it's definitely worth it, especially when you're playing at a very high level. You need to make sure that you're saving HP at every step of the game. And so you can see here, he's actually going to sell the Garen. So there we go. We finally pivoted out of it, but it did its job. It got us the 4 streak, and now we're going to look to see if we can try and 5 streak. Quite interesting here, he waits to see where to put the Sunfire Cape here, recognizes that Amumu is going to stay alive for the longest. So not only is it just a better item on Amumu, because he's probably the most tanky unit there, but he didn't want to grief and put the Sunfire down too early, so he just waited to see where would the Sunfire fit perfectly. And notice how he's doing that spread out positioning. That's to counter some of the like core key players who have the AoE damage, and he doesn't want to make sure that he wants to make sure that he's not clumping. Otherwise, you can sometimes lose those rounds just because his rockets will just hit everyone. And now this is a little bit awkward because we get the full duplicator here. But usually this is better for duping 4 or 5 costs, and he's far from that. He can technically play for a fast 8, but from his particular spot, because he's playing around Punk, he can utilize that to get some really efficient rolls, but that's just going to guarantee that he definitely can't fall to it this game. So interesting to see how he plays around it. He might just ignore it, just pretend that he didn't even get the duplicator, because playing towards it doesn't synergize well with his spot at all. Okay, so what do we have? We have What the Forge, which doesn't synergize well with our augment at all because we want to play around sleight of hand, which means we want to keep the TGs. So I'm probably looking to reroll the first one. Radiant TG is really, really good because it synergizes with sleight of hand. Whoever holds the Radiant TG gets more attack speed. So I'd definitely be looking at number 2 here, as well as the fact that Radiant TG is just a good item in the stats anyway, a good augment in the stats anyway. And then 3 is pretty decent. Stationary support, it's fine. However, I'd probably be leaning towards 2, so reroll 1 then 3 maybe. But I'd be surprised if he finds anything better than this. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. So Twin Terror, a lot of people would be super ecstatic to see Twin Terror here, just because they're already playing around the Twitch. You know, they have Twitch 2, they have Pantheon pair, they have a Mumu pair. This looks like an amazing spot for Twin Terror, which is one of the most broken augments this patch. However, what I think is really, really clever by Tidal here is that he recognizes that he doesn't actually want to pivot to the Twin Terror board. Potentially he's contested. I wasn't scouting as well as he was, so maybe he knows that someone else is playing around that line. But also he recognizes that this country Katarina is so strong and it rolled really, really good items that he can actually take this to a fast 7 and then play into the standard executioner line or maybe something different. And he doesn't need to lock himself into something that he needs to pivot his board into. Because if he wants to play Twin Terror from this spot, he has to sell the Katarina, roll down and hit a Twitch Chosen. Or better yet, find like a Vex Chosen as well. But it's a big gamble where he can just guarantee that he can try and be really, really strong in stage 3 if he just takes this Radiant TG here. So something that I noticed from Titles games is that he's definitely not a meta slave. He loves to just play around strongest boards, and although I when I watch his games will see augments and go, that's broken, I want to take that in this spot, he'll sometimes just say, no, screw it, I want to play to my current board, I want to play to my current play style, and not be a meta slave. He will stay away from augments which average like a really, really low average, just because he recognizes that he can play around something else, and he usually finds great success with it. So really interesting to see how he's a player that's actually quite different from the standard players that I'd watch. You see here, he's just sacking his Pantheon, let the Pantheon die first, then Amumu can walk up and he has the Sunfire Cape. Really important that Amumu is staying alive for longer, not only for the Sunfire Cape, but also for the fact that you want to try and let Amumu get 3 casts, because that's when he gets the most amount of damage and CC into the board. So from this spot, he has Open Glove, Open Cloak. He doesn't really have much of a choice because he's going to be last pick, but oh my goodness, getting a free TG here on a Poppy as well. Poppy synergizing really well with the Executioner line if he eventually gets that Vex, and he already has an Amumu, so he can just play the Poppy right now. So really, really good pickup, and there we go. He just pops off the glove from the Twitch. If you make a TG on a unit that already has an item, it just pops it off. So now he has Sleight of Hand with 3 TGs, one of them being Radiant, so he can just easily cruise. Doesn't need to push levels here. He can just stay level 6 and then just natural his way up to 7, probably after neutrals, just because he's so strong. He doesn't really need to do anything here. Still making use of those punk rolls though. Notice that he probably wants to play around an executioner line from here, so he's making use of the free punk rolls now, because rolling on level 6 is actually really good for the executioner board, as not only do you find those 2 costs such as the Twitch, and sometimes you can play around Pantheon 3, but also the fact that the 3 cost odds are actually still really good, it's 25%, so if you use your cheap punk rolls now, you can actually pick up a couple of Vexes, Amumus, and anything else that helps to fit the board, and if you play around Samira Chosen as well, then picking up Samiras on level 6 is also really good, and if you consider the fact that you can use like 5 free punk rolls, during stage 3, then that only costs you 5 gold, and 5 gold is not very much when you're getting the value of effectively 10. Now, what I thought was interesting about this game is that he doesn't actually opt to sell his Katarina here. He recognizes that Katarina is strong enough that he can just keep slow rolling on 7 with his punk rerolls and actually keep the Katarina in. So I was interested to see the fact that he's playing around this Katarina, and because a lot of other players would probably sell the cat here and just roll down until they find the Executioner Chosen, or at least something that can hold the items a little bit better, but I think he just recognizes that he's going to kill enough units, so he doesn't need to risk and gamble, because if you miss on your Chosen here, you have to drop below 20 gold, and then your spot's pretty bad. Whereas look, he's killing so many units. In fact, he's winning around because Malala's board's actually quite weak for a 4-1. So with these augments here, Infernal Contract's really good for securing a safe top 4, but we mentioned before he's playing for a first, so probably just wants to do that. Binary Airdrop doesn't synergize well with TG at all. Uplink makes a little bit of sense because he has so many items, but it doesn't do that much on his board, especially if he wants to play around the AD line. Vex can utilize the uplink quite a lot better than some of the other units, but I don't think that the Twitch or this Samira will get that much value out of it. So I'm probably leaning towards 1, rerolling 2 and 3, but once he rerolls 3, he sees that he has Prismatic Ticket, which is perfectly fine when you're playing around Punk. This can secure you, this can guarantee that you get, all of those 3 stars, and it's probably better than Infernal Contract because his position's higher roll. So Infernal Contract's better on average just because it secures the top 4, but Prismatic Ticket has a higher cap. So once he sees Prismatic Ticket, he probably just wants to reroll 1 and 2. Let's see, that's exactly what he does, and then he gets Jewel Lotus. So Jewel Lotus caps way higher than Prismatic Ticket because if you hit your 3 stars, obviously you'd rather have a combat augment, and it just synergizes so well with all the TGs because all of his units, and there we go, he finally opts into selling the Cat Arena. I thought it was quite interesting that he didn't sell Cat before. Maybe he recognized that the Cat was strong enough for stage 4-1. Maybe he recognized that the Cat was strong enough for 4-1. And then just decided, okay, once I've seen my augment, I want to sell the Cat and roll and get rid of it because it only costs 1 gold to roll, and he's using that anyway. So finally sells the Cat, gets a Poppy chosen, and now his spot's looking quite good. And I was mentioning before, because he has all of these Radiant TGs, because he has all these TGs as well as 1 Radiant, they all get the Jewel Lotus value, and they all get extra crit from the TGs, so that just synergizes so well, and he doesn't even need to play a Chosen because his board is so strong. And now, I know a lot of other players, again, would probably want to roll down here until they get something, like a decent Chosen just to hold the items, but I think he, again, recognizes that he's strong enough, and he has the Poppy too as well, as he natural the Alawi, so maybe he just goes, nah, screw it, I'm gonna stay here and greed my Econ. Sells the Kenshin, makes 40, so now he's really rich. If he rolled down for his Chosen in the last round, then he would be nowhere near strong enough. And I think it's incredible to see that even in an MSI game, he recognizes that he's strong enough to kill units, that he's not going to waste his Econ rolling for a Chosen if he says, nah, I'm strong enough, I don't really need to do that. So we will take a loss, but only by 3 units, so it's not the end of the world. He has open belt and a tier, so not amazing items when playing around Twitch or Samira. However, if he can get his hands on that glove, he can go for a guard breaker, which of course is going to be the best thing for him to pick up. When you're playing around vertical executioners for Samira, and there we go, there's the executioner. Now he can slam the guard breaker here, and it's actually Biss on Samira because you don't need IE when you're playing 6 executioners. And although he's only playing 4 now, he will eventually obviously lean towards that 6 executioner. I think it's a little bit of a misplay here that he doesn't actually swap the items over. He's just holding onto the Twitch with the Last Whisper, because even if he goes for Twitch 3 here, it's not going to matter if you don't itemize your Samira. I wonder if he's considering the fact that he wants to move the TG over to the Samira and then just itemize the Twitch as well. But honestly, it's a little bit of a gamble because you can guarantee 2 out of 3 really good Samira items here and then probably go 3 out of 3 later. And there we go. He downgrades the Twitch so he can move the items over to Samira, and he can still go for Twitch 3 at this point, but it's not going to have items because he needs to prioritize items for his Samira. So, Twitch 3, if he gets it, that'll be great, but he's definitely playing around Samira from this spot, and all he really needs to do is get a 3rd item here, and he'll be in a really good spot. Rotate into the Yone 3 player, not too much you can do. You have to just take the losses as they come, but he's had incredible losses this game. Never by more than like 3 units, I believe, so just slow rolling, making use of the Punk, saying I don't need to pivot to 6 Executioner, I don't need to go fast 8 from this spot, I can just slow roll on 7 because I'm stable enough and I'm killing units. So he doesn't really have too much of a choice here. Unfortunately, he only gets 1 component here, so he has open tier. So from this spot, it's basically just a hodge. You need 3 items on your Samira as your main carry, and none of the other items really do anything, so it's pretty much always hodge here. Still making use of that Punk roll. So you can see he's holding on to some of these extra units. He's holding on to the Karthus because he knows he eventually wants to play towards that. Vex rolling blue off on a JG is insane here. Samira, pretty decent items. You can see that he is contested a little bit. There we go, Twin Terror. So I think he knew Malala was playing Twin Terror from 2-1, so I think he just wanted to play tempo, and he had the option to flex into anything he wanted this game, but I think he recognizes that Malala's spot was weak enough that he would die, so he just needs to wait for Malala to die. And now you can see he's rolling, just slow rolling still, but rolling a decent amount of his gold. I guarantee that if Malala hadn't died that round, then he probably would have just like held on to his gold a little bit more, because he's super comfortable with his position now. All he needs to do is just hold on to his gold and then play for the win out by hitting absolutely everything. So actually opts into dropping out of Punk. I think he recognizes that it's better to just play strongest board, and although he is playing 3 emo, the Amumu 2 is definitely going to be doing a lot more than Pantheon 2, and so rolls a little bit here just to secure maybe another win here, but actually drops below 50, which is perfectly fine. I think a lot of the times it's correct to just dig for information or for board strength, which is exactly what he's doing, but he still definitely wants to slow roll for most of this game. So he ends up picking another damage item here. He's looking to play around that Twitch 3 as well. You can see that he's just 2 off of Twitch 3. So the Deathblade's a really good pickup, and then he can probably get another item. I don't think he really cares too much about the frontline items. Of course, triple item frontline would be okay, but he's playing around this Poppy with a Radiant TG anyway, which is pretty much the frontline. So just prioritizing a little bit more DPS in the backline is really good. And when you're playing around this comp late game anyway, especially if you're using an Alawi, it's more about the 6 executions just nuking the board than it is about your frontline stalling. So you can see here he's just 2 off of this, 2 off the Twitch and 2 off the Samira, rolls twice, hits the Twitch 3 and goes, okay, you know what, this is probably stable enough. He only needs to wait one more round before he can go 8 and then play 6 executioner anyway. So whilst he could dig quite deep here, because he's 1 off Vex and he has a duplicator, so he's technically 1 off of both of them if he uses the dupe. Just goes, nah, I don't really mind. I can lose one more round here and just play for first. However, I think that if he was playing for like a top 4, then he definitely probably would have rolled a bit deeper here. So pops the Anvil, picks up a GS, perfect item for Twitch because he definitely wants to play around Twitch here. So he finally levels, but because he's waited all the way to 6-1, he's naturaled a lot of experience, so it doesn't actually cost him that much to level. These rolls here are a little bit unfortunate though. Akali is like the last upgrade you want to get here. You can see he's willing to roll all the way down to 1 gold just for information because he wants to hit either Vex or Samira and then just dupe the other one. But luckily for him, he still has 30 HP. A little bit unfortunate with positioning here. I think he was a little bit more focused on his rolling, and so the Yone manages to wrap to the backline. I think this was a fight that was definitely winnable, but unfortunately he's going to take a loss there. He's down to 1, potentially 2 lives here. So now he just hits the Samira and then he can dupe the Vex as well. Unfortunately, it rolls some pretty garbage items after he dupes it here, but all he really needs to do here is just focus on the positioning. Rolls one more time. Maybe he was looking to use the duplicator or remake someone. But he's definitely considering this remover because with TGs, you can use a remover on them and then place the TG back down to get a new chance of getting new items. And so I think if he goes down to 1 life here, he'll definitely consider that. He is potentially 1 life here, but with his board, it's unlikely that he's going to lose by that many units. So I think he's just saving his remover for the very, very last fight. So he just needs to make sure that the Yone can't just wrap onto the backline, and even if it does, he has the Vex there ready to CC it. So he does have the insurance policy of the Twitch, so I think just by spreading out his executioners, as long as a couple of them live, then he'll always be getting quite a lot of kills. A little bit unfortunate there that they get onto the backline, but it doesn't really matter because the Samira has the Hodge, so she's going to be able to clean up. And finally going on to last carousel here, probably looking for a 3rd Twitch item. Not really much to get here though. You can see that there's just some AP items. The Sterix doesn't really do anything, so he's just going to go for the JG for some more crit. You can see it go for a single component, obviously isn't going to do anything. Roll down here, but he's not really looking for anything. Puts the JG onto the Twitch. Unfortunately, he only has 1 remover, otherwise he could, I don't know, maybe play around something else. So you could JG the Karthus, but you really want to secure 3 items for your Twitch here as it's the last couple of fights anyway. So unfortunately the Yone does actually manage to get to the backline, so he's going to take a loss here. But like I mentioned before, 19 HP when you have this board this strong, you're still probably going to be killing enough units. And I lied, he did have something to roll for, it was the Karthus, and didn't really like the Poppy item, so finally decides to use that remover. Now all he needs to do is make sure that he's not getting wrapped on by this Yone, so make sure that there's a tanky unit in the corner, just baiting it. Something really important to note from this setup here is that the crowd divers will stun the backline, but he's using the tentacles really, really cleverly here so that when the crowd divers walk up, they'll actually be jumping over to the tentacles. So these 3 units will be perfectly safe. You can see here the Kiana gets baited by the tentacles, and all of the crowd divers, when they die, they're going to get blown up and just jump over to the tentacle. You can see there, Evelyn jumped over, boom boom, all the crowd divers are jumping over there, and so his backline is going to be left completely untouched. And that is the end of the video. I hope you guys did enjoy this VOD review. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to Team Juno, as we'll be doing many more guides and VOD reviews in the future. Maybe next time I'll even be joined by someone else, a fellow team member perhaps. Alright, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to join the Discord. Link is down in the description below. And that's all for today. I will see you next time.